Hello and welcome back to Call Center Helper. My name is Xander Freeman, Digital Content Director, and if you can't tell by the background on today's video, I'm joined by Odigo. Agam Kohli is their UK Experience Director. Agam, hello.
Hi, Xander. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to speak to you, my friend.
It's great to see you again. It's nice to do it virtually rather than me trekking down to London, but that is a complete different matter.
Especially the way the trains go, exactly that.
There's only so many 5 a.m. trains I can do. But today, and we're not talking about trains, we're talking about agent burnout, which is such a prevalent topic in contact centers, especially these days in 2025. So I
Mm.
guess to start us off here, give our audience a bit of an overview then. Why is agent burnout such a big issue for contact centers at the moment?
So, Xander, let's look at why there is agent burnout and why it happens. So, if you drill that down into sort of kind of three silos, let's say, right? Let's look at people, let's look at processes, and let's look at the tech as well, right? So, look, everyone's stressed, right, all the time. People have lots of things to worry about in terms of their personal lives, etc., right? So, you're never going to get rid of stress. So that element always creeps into the job. You've obviously got things like job satisfaction, the environment that agents are working in, and obviously in terms of sometimes the calls that they deal with, right? There are a lot
Mm.
of important calls that are being taken. There's a lot of, let's say, vulnerable customers out there that agents are having to deal with as well. And obviously that all adds into why agents are getting stressed. In a lot of places, you've obviously got processes that are also very outdated. So as an example, we work with an insurance company and, you'll see they've got some super agents. You'd have thought that everything gets kind of calculated in terms of their premiums, etc., automatically. But you've actually got, in some cases, agents manually making calculations using, calculators on their laptops and things, right? And you
Mm.
look at it and you think, my God, yeah, I wouldn't be able to do what they do. So sometimes processes and backend systems, etc., don't help in terms of the work that the agents are doing.
Mm.
Then, of course, there's the tech, right? So you can imagine if you aren't using up-to-date tech, laptops that are backwards, or you've got screens that are continually going blue screens, or applications that are taking ages to load. That obviously just adds to the stress because they're trying to obviously get a call responded to quickly, get the information as quickly back to the customer as they can. But then with applications and things hanging around, it obviously takes a little bit more time, and that stresses them out because they know that the customer's also then getting stressed in terms of just waiting, hanging on, waiting to get that vital information from them. Um, so in any case, there's a lot of reasons why they have stress from the work that they do.
Mm.
But let's talk about why this then obviously becomes a big issue in the contact center, right? Um, so a lot of these factors obviously just pile up, right? Emotionally and physically over time, you can imagine, you're doing this day in, day out. You have 3, 6, 9, 12 months, right?
Sure.
And it obviously just increases as you go on and on and on and on, right? Um, Going on a holiday, fine. That sort of helps a little bit in terms of, you get that break, but then you're coming back to the same thing again, right?
Mm.
So in essence, just having a holiday isn't solving it, right? Um, the thing is, though, is you're always working as a team when you're working as an advisor or as an agent, right? So
Mm.
sometimes that kind of stress, that kind of burnout starts to affect other members of the team as well. So you
Yeah.
can imagine in terms of that lemming effect, right? Where obviously if one person starts to feel it, then you've got others that then start to feel it as well. It then
Mm.
starts to impact their performance, so it's one person, team's performance, and obviously then starts to impact, loads of people within that contact center environment as well, right? Ultimately, what obviously that then happens is it's just not draining people. Um, Burnout's then draining the business, as well as the teams.
I think so. And I think especially if you look at how contact centers are almost positioned these days as the sort of insight hub for the wider business, what happens in the contact center with the frontline agents can have a huge impact on the wider business as well.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, everything's about bottom line these days, unfortunately, right? So,
Mm.
they're the forefront of your business. So if they're not happy, they're obviously not going to be happy back to customers, and obviously there's then going to be, um, you know, a drop in customer experience and obviously profit margins and cost to serve and things like that as well.
Absolutely. So I suppose my next question there is, how are you seeing team leaders tackle the issue of agent burnout?
So there's a lot of conversations, around stress management, resilience, supporting individual team members.
Mm.
Um, I think the real focus needs to be on proactive prevention.
Mm.
So what I mean by that is that, once you've obviously got advisors or a team or agents that are kind of going through burnout, you're a little bit late to the party in terms of trying to sort that out. So yes, obviously you need to help them out. I mean, that's obviously primary action that needs to be taken. But I think you need to be proactive about finding out the root cause of that burnout. Now, we spoke about whether, things that are happening with them at home, which obviously you have little control of, other than just providing that support mechanism. But in terms of, looking at the tech and looking at some of the processes that you're running within your contact center, those are kind of key drivers that as a leader, as a team leader, you can then affect or impact. So that's where, if you start making small changes in terms of improving some of those things, will then have a larger effect in terms of how your agents feel about the work that they're doing and how they're working and some of the things that they're doing. I think another key point is leaders need to recognize what burnout looks like. So, sometimes the signs aren't as clear as they should be. So it's about identifying when you've got agents that are burnt out so you can then tackle the problem quicker. If you wait too long, obviously, it just manifests itself, right? And that's what you want to avoid.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right there. And as much as, every person is slightly different to the other, but I think it comes down to knowing your team, but also there are common factors there and common signs to spot there. And I think as an industry, there's so much more work we could be doing. And how
Exactly, exactly. Things like, when you've got agents that aren't answering as many calls or some of their stats start to go down, those are kind of key signs in terms of where you know that, either that person or that agent is now, beginning to struggle a little bit, right? So it's time to sort of have a chat and do something about it.
Well, I tell you what, there, you mentioned the statistics, and I know you mentioned the three sort of silos before:
Yeah,
people, processes. The third silo there was tech.
yeah.
So leads me on to my final question. How are you seeing technology help with agent burnout?
So again, if we break it down into the three silos, right? I
Mm,
think from a people point of view, and this has largely been there for a long, long time, right? It's nothing new. You've got systems that obviously allow you to, have supervisors listen in on agents. You've got the ability for agents to kind of, bring in supervisors into some of those very complex, tedious conversations, right? Some of those sensitive conversations as well. So some of that kind of tooling helps. So as long as the agents and advisors know that there is help available, they don't have to handle everything on their own. I think
yeah.
from a people perspective, that helps immensely.
Mm,
Um, from a process point of view, I think a lot of what we can do from a contact center perspective is obviously have the right and the relevant information available to those agents and advisors. Because I think a lot of the struggle is like, you can almost imagine in a contact center environment, yeah, where you've obviously got calls coming in, the call lands, you've answered the call, but actually they have no information in terms of why that person's calling and what the problem is.
mm,
So they're wasting 3 or 4 minutes for the systems to catch up to kind of work out exactly why that person may be calling, right, before they can then start to resolve that query. But you can build processes in terms of some of that stuff, right?
mm.
To help enable, obviously more information, knowledge bases, etc., to provide the kind of right environment for agents to be able to find the right information and provide that right information back to customers. And then third, from a tech perspective itself, right? Look, everyone's talking about AI. AI is the rage, right? But what does AI mean in terms of agent burnout, right? There's a lot of discussion in terms of automation.
Yeah,
Now automation can obviously be right at the front end in terms of some of that, some of the low value tasks being handled by bots, or just literally by anything that can be done digitally on a website, for example, right?
sure.
Self-service.
Mm,
But there's also tech that can also help advisors, in terms of doing their job, right?
mm,
And that can be as simple as, having a single agent desktop, for example, where all the information is available, stops them from going from application to application. But they've also got, AI where it comes in to kind of help them in terms of, providing the right articles from a knowledge management perspective. You know, if a customer, let's say, for example, is leaving, providing the right kind of intents and the right documentation to basically aid the advisor, the agent, to kind of provide that information as well. In terms of, rather than, having them search through loads and loads of knowledge bases or articles and things.
no, 100%. And I think you're right when we talk about AI, everyone is talking about it, but I think especially where we are at the moment, in 2025 now. We're a few years on from where we
Yeah,
first started talking about it in relation to contact centers. And I think the key thing there is people can get so bogged down with the overall topic of AI. But when we break it down into the individual silos, the individual use cases for it, I think that's where you're really seeing how it can make a difference in contact centers at the moment. And I think there's some really interesting use cases out there.
exactly, exactly. But there is one thing to always remember, Xander, right? That, tech on its own is never going to resolve agent burnout, right? There's
Mm,
always that people element, that process element, yeah, which feeds into whatever tech you have. So you may have the best tech, best AI, but in the
mm.
end, that's not going to resolve agent burnout, right? Because it's a combination of all three.
100%. I mean, I could talk to you for hours on this,
I
but I
could
think
talk to
that's
you as
all the
well,
time we
Xander. It's been brilliant.
It's always easy talking to you. But I think that's all the time we have today, so we'll wrap there. But there is so much more to talk about here, and I'm sure we'll find the time to do it again in the future.
Thank you, Xander. Thank you so much for your time as well. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, guys.